Pedestrian Advisory Commission. The time is 7:40. I call the meeting to order and ask everyone to stand and pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank everyone watching us online and the people here in the audience. It's been a while since we've been on the air. Happy to be back on. I want to let everyone know we've been busy, so we'll have plenty of stuff to report on, and we'll try to be on the air more often from now on. So with that, you should have an agenda before you. Is there any comments on the agenda as presented? Any additions or deletions? Hearing none, I'd like to have a motion to accept the agenda.
I motion that we accept the agenda.
I second.
Nicole and Dan, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. You should also have approval of meeting. You should have the meeting minutes in front of you that Dan was able to create from our last meeting, which was on February 21st. Just for the record, anyone that's interested, even when we are not on the air, generally the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission is meeting in Township Hall on the third Thursday of the month at 7:30. So oftentimes, if we're not on the air, you will see us at the ground floor meeting room or the second floor meeting room. Hearing no additions or deletions to the minutes, call for an order to have them approved.
I motion that they be approved.
Nicole, may I get a second?
I'll second it.
Dan, all in favor? Aye. Great, good job, Dan. Appreciate it. Next, we have open public comment. We have several people here from the public. If anyone wants to introduce themselves, feel free to do so. Anything not pertaining to the agenda, feel free to talk about as well. Hearing none, we'll close public comment and we'll move into our first general discussion item, which is maintenance plans. And I call our special guest, Wes Pfeiffer, who's here to talk about bridge repairs. If you can, please come up to the podium so that way folks at home can hear you as well.
Thanks for inviting me tonight to come in. This year's the anniversary to do the staining of both the handrails and the decks on the bike path bridges. And so the process will take place where we'll go through. I haven't inspected the bridges yet this spring, but the amount of snowfall that we've had and stuff has been pretty minor, really. And the DPW is using the brush on the pass, and so I expect very little, if any, damage to any of the wood members this year. Most of the bad timbers over the years have been taken care of now. At this point, there would be, if there's any cosmetic, a grain lifted up or a huge split in a board for some reason that would need to be replaced. But other than that, I'm anticipating mostly just power washing and staining. With the same coat, same color, and the same product that we've been putting on for the last 4 or 6 years now. It's holding up quite well, and it's good. The one bridge that will need some consideration is the Meridian, what we call the Meridian Bridge across from Meridian School. That bridge deck was not stained 2 years ago because we decided to save some money on it in the sense that we had it earmarked to do some major repair to it, to the deck. At this point, I think we probably should address the joists and stuff. They were punky 4 years ago when we did the major wood repair on it. We didn't do anything to them, so they're just worse. And what's going to happen is that the nails are just sort of start letting go. And the boards are just sort of start rattling, and they just won't have any holding power left to them. So what we are looking at, the way that bridge is designed, we can remove the deck and remove all the joists. Inspect the cross members. The cross members are sound, tremendous. We just rejoist and deck. the handrail is independent of the joist or of substructure, the way it's designed. So the handrail does not have to be removed or touched. Just any minor repairs will have to be done to it if it needs any. But the handrail itself is in very good shape, as well as the vertical posts in the Simpson brackets that are the main foundation for the bridge. Once we have the deck and the joist off, though, we can give a very thorough investigation to the posts and the cross beams, as I said. At that point, if there's something that needs to be addressed, then we can bring forth on it. But I initially feel that we just rejoist and redeck that bridge, and then we put it right back in the same staining cycle as the other ones. This year is the full coat deck and handrail, so this one we'll get new wood on the deck. We'll get a deck and a handrail treatment, and it'll be good to go for 4 years on the rails and 2 more years on the deck. The reason we spread that up, if anyone's wasn't around when we first came up with this maintenance plan, is unlike your decks in the backyard and stuff, the deck itself gets a lot of traffic, both tires, bicycles, strollers, etc., and foot traffic, way more than a normal deck. And so with that, the lifespan of even this product that we're putting on starts to wear out, and after a couple of years, you'll see the wear marks right in the middle of the bridge, right where everyone likes to walk or ride. And so by doing it every 2 years, we keep the wood protected. And because pressure-treated wood is not a one-time thing. It's an initial thing, but if you don't keep treating it, it's not going to hold up any better than any other wood. And now that we've got everything uniformed on the bridges and stuff, it's a much easier maintenance scenario now to keep it looking good. Any questions? How long does it take? It's usually 3 to 4 weeks for all 3 bridges. A given bridge, like the Grow Row, we'll power wash it in 1 day, stain it probably in 2. Something like the Thoroughfare Bridge, we'll be out there 3-4 days doing the staining. What was it? Oh, if we do that, that would be probably a good 4 weeks, just with the construction, the tear out and then the rebuilding. A little bit longer if we do find some additional structural damage, but from the inspection that we could see to date, everything else looked pretty sound on it. So I don't anticipate anything else with it.
Wes, I have a question for you. When do you anticipate doing that? Because we know as soon as the weather breaks, there's a demand for it. So,
I would like to get the Meridian Bridge, if we were to do it this year. I'd like to probably get that scheduled for as soon as school gets out, or mid-June. Get that going, so that it's out. The wood has a chance to cure a little bit. It's a very shady area, and so it's going to take a little bit longer for that fresh lumber to be ready to accept the stain, because we don't want the stain to lift on it. And then we'll come back in for the staining and stuff, power washing and staining, first part of August. I'm thinking that will give enough time for the Meridian Bridge to age, and then we can just do our cycle from one bridge to the other and just walk our way around the island on it. Yeah.
one other question I have. Since we're disassembling some of the bridge, are there any modifications or changes we might want to consider since we're deconstructing some of it? Would it be in our best interest to make any modifications while we're doing this, if any are needed?
I don't really think any are needed on it. I mean, I'm a little partial to that one. That was the first bridge I built on the island.
Okay.
But the way that's designed, it's almost modular. The vertical post can be removed, as we did a couple of years ago, because one was out of position. By just blocking the cross beam, you could remove that post and put a new post in without interfering anything with the rest of the bridge. The same is with the handrail. The handrail is set up on the cross beams. And so unless we were removing the cross beam, the handrail doesn't need to be touched. And I kind of like that design because it's a pretty good maintenance scenario. The Grow Road and the Thoroughfare Bridge are built basically the same with, instead of traditional 2x joist material, they have 4x12 joists on it. It was a MDOT specification. It's a heck of a bridge for a bike path.
Do you feel that the brush has really made a difference instead of plowing it? Using the brush has really helped to maintain it?
I've operated a skidder or comedy called a Bobcat for a number of years, and it is difficult in a snowy condition with the bucket down to try to be removing snow down tight and keeping it straight. And the width of the bike path versus the width of the bucket and stuff doesn't give a whole lot of room for air as you're trying to clean the path. The brush is much easier to control on the machine as you're running it, and it's not detrimental to the wood itself. Whereas the bucket, if you end up being a little bit too low, you're going to catch a timber. You rip the timber. If there is a nail pop or a screw that's popped up a little bit, the bucket edge will catch that and rip it up and rip the board up. By using the brush, we eliminated all that. You know, we come in the spring, look at nail pops and fix them, and it's good to go. So I think the brush has saved the township a lot of grief.
Everyone know that's something that we purchase with our maintenance funds is the brush for the Bobcat, and so that way we can do the cleaning like that on the bridges. We used to get chunks of the bridge taken up, just of pieces of wood taken up. So as Wes was saying, it is very difficult. I know John from DPS does a heck of a job, and he's always out there clearing the snow, and so that way even before it stops, usually our paths are clear. So I want to thank him for that, and so not trying to be negative on the aspect of the work that he has done, but I'm glad that we do have the brush to make his job even easier.
Oh yeah, it's not that anyone was being careless or stuff. It's just the nature of the beast is very hard to try to do that with the irregularity of deck boards, because every deck board is not perfectly same.
We can also use that brush for clearing off the leaves for certain areas on the path if it needs it. For example, back by the soccer fields, that's an area that can be used in that. Just carry on with Alan's comment about since we're pulling up the joists, is there anything else we should consider? And I was wondering, composite wood or plastic wood or fiberglass and things like that, should that be considered as all for some of those parts, since they rot a little more in the dark areas of the shaded areas of the Meridian Bridge?
Actually, the Meridian Bridge in that shade, with the prior to starting the maintenance, the bridge actually was holding up better. It was the oldest bridge, but it was holding up one of the best conditioned bridges because of that shade. It wasn't getting that sunbake and the big extremes going back and forth. And so the shade really is not that detrimental. The cost of doing a composite will greatly escalate the repair costs. Positive returns, you can eliminate the staining on it. But with that shade and stuff, the newer products is not supposed to grow mold. proof is in the pudding. I did some for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and some of that stuff has little black spots of mold on it, and that's out in the sun.
Yeah.
And so it's, I don't know how well I would actually do in the shade with the moisture and stuff. It might be good, it might be, I don't know. The stain on the wood product will eliminate that problem, and then it's just either one, a power wash would take care of it, no matter which, either way you want to go. It definitely will save some staining, but it will be a return cost over a number of years to balance it out. More municipalities are doing it. I'm looking at a job up in Rochester, and there's almost a mile of boardwalk that they're putting down trucks. It is becoming more popular, but it's a pricey item. Our center lines on this are 16-inch on centers on the Meridian Bridge, and so the joist support would be fine for it. The other scenario with the synthetic stuff is that it pretty much is a 1x, consider a 1x6 board, instead of the 2x6 decking that we use with the lumber. Personally, I like to see a 2x member on something that's being used. The 1x, when it's in the sun, you can see it give a little belly, even on a 16-inch center sometimes. It was in the really hot sun. In the shade, it probably won't be bad, but it is a 1x, and I'd rather see a 2x. And you can get 2x again. That just takes the price now and doubles it again. And so that's kind of where it stands.
I appreciate you giving us your feedback on that, because I'm sure that there's people that have those questions. They've come up in the past. So I am always happy when you be able to talk about the pros and cons of both. I know personally, based on what Wes says and the minimal cost it does for staining each year, and the fact that it basically makes it look new again when you do the stain, versus if you do more of those composite materials, you do it once, and if it gets scratched, well, we might be able to buff it out, might not be able to. I think that it's nice that it seems like the wood is more forgiving, and given that how well it's treated us in the past, I don't see a reason personally to go up to composite. But I just wanted to bring that out, because I'm sure that some of my commissioners or you people at home might be interested in knowing the answer to that question.
If you wanted to experiment with a composite material, my suggestion is why don't we try it on the top rail of the handrail that's sitting on a 40-degree angle. That's well supported, and it's not a huge expense, and that's something that, unless it's maintained, it can get splinters and stuff in for someone rubbing their hands on it. Whereas if we put the synthetic board up there, you would have a pretty smooth scenario. But you could also use it as a test bed to see how this material is holding up in our conditions in our areas that we want to put it on Grosse Hill.
If you use that fake one, what about ice? Will it be slippery?
A little bit, but I don't think it's really any more than ice is slippery by nature. The synthetic, if you get the right wood grain and stuff to it, the right texture to it, it is no slipperier than the stained wood. But anything with it has a little leaf or a little leaf mold or something laying on it, and a little water, it could be slick. But so with the wood.
Remind me, I know that Ann shared the cost with me, but I did not bring it with me today. What were your estimates for the different bridges for the repairs?
Oh, the staining of the bridges, which will be both the deck and the handrail, will be around 28,000 for this year. That is up slightly from the original estimate by about 10%. The last 2 years ago, I held the original price for the decking. This year, material costs and stuff are just up. But I had a bump. I just couldn't hold the price anymore. And then again, I don't expect much repairs. And I just have in the back of my notes $3,000 to $6,000 of possible road repairs. I don't think it would go over 6 for sure, and I only think it's going to hit 3, quite honestly. But just so that it's in there in case there's something major that I'm not aware of out there. But John hasn't came to me and said that they took out a section of railing or anything, so I don't anticipate anything.
Those are for the two bridges, correct?
Now, the Grow Rose probably had the most wood replaced on it. And at this point, unless there's something damaged out there, any more wood replacement on that, it's probably just cosmetic. All the structural stuff that was looking bad or compromised has been replaced in that bridge now. So now it's just going to be a matter of whether a 2x6 is just plain, for lack of a better term, ugly, and you just don't want it there anymore. And the Meridian Bridge, the Thoroughfare Bridge, I can think of 1 or 2 boards is all I can think of the last time I walked it that would need to be replaced. Again, we can get crazy and everything that has a little nick on it we can replace, but I like to go through this very realistically. Unless the board is compromised in some way, it doesn't need to be replaced.
$31,000 to $34,000 for the two bridges. Does that make sense?
The stain is all 3.
What's that?
The stain price is for all 3.
Staining price is all 3, and that's the $28,000. And you said $3,000 to $6,000 and wood repairs. And I assume that's
just for the 2. That's just
for the 2 bridges. Yeah. So the Meridian Bridge, where we actually have to rip up all the decking, makes sense to replace that, and then look at the joists and the cross members.
Well, we know the joists got to come up as well.
Yeah.
So that was it's just a matter of whether the cross beams are solid. And I don't remember whether there are 6x6 or 4x6 going across, but it's a large piece of timber that the cross member is. I believe I think it's a 4x6 because the posts are 8x8s, I believe. So it was almost 30 years ago when I built that.
Proof's on the pudding.
Yeah, it's held up pretty well.
What are you thinking is the cost for
Repair of Meridian?
Yeah.
Repair of Meridian, I think we're probably looking at $40,000 if we're just doing the joist and decking. If we have to totally replace the bridge, then we're probably looking at $75,000.
What was 75?
We have to totally replace it. Cross members, verticals, handrail, everything. Because if we end up having to do the cross members and vertical post, foundation post, at that point, trying to salvage the handrail doesn't make economic sense. It's better just to build you a new bridge. Just trying to take it apart, keep it from getting damaged, by taking it apart and putting it back in, it won't be as good. Might as well just put a new one in. With that price, I'm assuming that we can maintain the concrete foundations and the brackets. The brackets aren't even Simpson brackets. Those brackets, we actually made those. They're 1/4-inch plate steel, galvanized. They're not going anywhere. I think we don't have to do the concrete work. It would just be all wood coming up with that complete price.
Wes, would that be billing it identical to?
Be on identical to what we have out there.
Okay.
Said that lasted 30 years? Good return.
Wes, what is
Actually,
the?
sir, I better correct that. Maybe it's 29. I think I'm rounding it up.
Wes, what is the normal life of one of these bridges? We talked about this before, but I don't remember the numbers. It was only about 20 years as expected
About 20
life.
years.
Yeah. Good. That's finally something in our favor.
Yeah. And the other bridges with the 4x12 members that you're using for the substructure, that's like the life of a road bridge. Because that's basically a road platform that is the MDOT design that's being used on the substructure of the other two bridges.
Folks at home or anyone interested, the reason why MDOT goes with such a heavy design is that they want to make sure that you can actually get an ambulance onto the bridge if possible. So you have to have loads to be able to support that weight of a heavy truck like that. So obviously those costs go up for something like that, but at the same time it's built like a tank. It's not going anywhere. So it sounds like your estimates are between $68,000 and $103,000 for everything.
Worst case scenarios, yeah, probably.
Any other questions for Wes? Last one is the other two bridges. Are you thinking that we should stain them sooner rather than later, or is it possible to stain those like over the summer as well?
Yeah, right now, I mean, we're on the. This is the year, Brian, to stain both decks and handrails on all three bridges. The Meridian Bridge is just that it's going to be at least a new deck on it, and so I asked Alan's time frame. I'd like to get that started right after school is let out mid-June. That gives it about a month, 6 weeks to dry, which is what manufacturers recommend, before we start putting the stain on it in the first part of August.
The reason why I was asking is because we'll be planning for Bike to School Day, and so the bridge at Meridian will be pretty critical for the older elementary school students. So I'm glad to hear we could do it over the summer for all the bridges.
Since that one is really critical for the elementary school Meridian, we can start with it. It doesn't matter which bridge I start with. We can start with that one so that it's ready to go, and probably move to the thoroughfare bridge. I don't know which one gets more use, the Girl Bridge or the thoroughfare bridge. I know when we're working on them, it's actively heavy on all three of them. I can provide dates and stuff of start dates and the order of when we're going to go from one bridge to the next. We could even have a day in between one bridge to the next, so that it's a little adjustment period before we actually close it down to start doing it.
One thing I'd like for us to consider, and I don't know if it's feasible or not, but if we can do a detour route for folks where you say that, hey, expect to be seeing bicyclists along a shoulder along this part of a roadway, because people might still want to make that movement. The bridge is just a short gap. If we can do something to make it more formal and make it safe for people to be, riding and go around the bridge. That way it makes Wes's job a little easier as far as, waiting for the, doing the staining and such. I think we should look into it. I don't know if we can, but
Well, normally when we're just power washing and staining, the bridge that is down the longest is the thoroughfare bridge. But luckily, with Lawler Drive going back over the ferry, it has a nice little safety detour where the kids don't have to try to do that little chicane on Meridian to go down the road. They can go down through that subdivision and be perfectly safe. Grow Road and Meridian, there's pretty not much places I can send them. I don't think the sidewalk goes all the way from the school up to Hawthorne's driveway for them to do their.
It does.
Oh, does it?
Yep.
It might be
You
an
cross
option.
over to the school and take it up to Hawthorne and then recross.
Signage up, get with the chief and maybe we can get a little signage or something.
Yeah, it ends right at Hawthorne.
So that will give them a path there too. Then the only really problem area is Grow Road and trying to come across that little culvert there.
Row Road is that it's less traveled, so most people would feel comfortable riding in the road there for a short distance of time.
Plus, that's only going to be a 2-day deal at Grow anyways, most likely.
1 day to power wash and 2 days to stain. So
Okay.
3-day
All right.
scenario. Grow Road takes a little bit longer because it is so close to the road that I have to put up some temporary verticals on the guardrail post, and then I hang some tarps down so that the oversprays don't get on the car as we're doing the handrail. Thoroughfare's got the same problem up by the bridge itself, but it's only a small section. As soon as we're to the north of it, we have enough tree cover that it's not a problem. And as you come south, it backs away from the road more and more as you come down through it, so it's not quite as bad. Any other questions?
Very much, Wes. Appreciate
More
it.
than welcome.
So let everyone know that we do have a maintenance budget. We accrue through the millage approximately around $90,000 per year. We do have a balance in there, and so I was trying to pull that up right now, and so see if I can pull that up at the moment. Yeah, I believe we have $260,000 from past years, and we have, again, $92,000 for property taxes estimated for this year. So, if everything goes, in the worst case scenario, about $103,000, we can still cover that and be able to do some asphalt maintenance this year as well as potentially, keep a reserve budget for future years or the winter maintenance aspects as needed. So with that, since you don't need, you want to get started over the summer, do you need a vote from us today? How long do you have to prepare for this?
It's you don't have to. I don't need one tonight. It'll be about 3 weeks lead time
Okay.
to get the material around and plug in the schedule. The main thing is let me know if the time frame's working for you guys, so I can plug in the schedule so I know what jobs or what crews I may need to put on additional to cover a time frame.
You only need 3 weeks. I want to give the commissioners a little time to digest this because some of them, that's the first time they're hearing about it, as well as we need to connect with CE Rains to learn about the asphalt maintenance that we need to do and get that cycle. So I'm thinking maybe next month that we'll probably make a vote on it, and that will give you plenty of time.
And I'll tentatively put it in the schedule for it right now so that it's plugged in, and basically, you guys would be right after the U.S. Fish and Wildlife project. Okay?
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate the
Thanks,
time.
Wes.
You're welcome to stay if you like, but we understand if you want to get on home.
Thanks, Ross.
All right. Moving on with the agenda, we have a Parkway Connector update. So for folks at home that are listening in, or folks in the audience, BPAC has been working with township officials, with the City of Trenton, with Wayne County Roads, Wayne County Economic Development, and the DTE Corporation, as well as SEMCOG, and potentially with the Department of Natural Resources to fill a critical gap in the Iron Bell Trail. So Iron Bell Trail is the state's initiative at connecting multiple pathways across our great state via two different routes, one that is hiking centric and one that's biking centric. Both of them start and end in the same place. So Ironwood on in the Upper Peninsula on the border with Wisconsin is one starting point, and the other one is Belle Isle in the city of Detroit. So hence where the name Iron Bell comes from. The hiking route will come down the west side of the state and goes through Washtenaw County and connects into Wayne County, comes through our metro parks and connects into the Downriver Link Greenways and comes up Jefferson. The path also has an optional route where it comes along Groseal Parkway, comes over our bridge, and from there we'll connect down to our Macomb Street district and terminate at the Outlook right at East River. So as being part of that Iron Bell Trail initiative, there's additional potential funds associated with that. So working with all these players, and I forgot to mention that we're also working with International Wildlife Refuge on this, because we are seeing the way that we can connect our two communities with Groseal with Trenton, connect to the two different parts of the Wildlife Refuge, the Gibraltar Bay unit here on Groseal, as well as the Humbug Marsh in the city of Trenton, and fill in this gap in the Iron Bell Trail. So based on that, we have started to figure out what different alternatives might be suitable for connecting our community to the city of Trenton. And we are planning to have some resident meetings in the future to bring up those alternatives with them. So that way we can see from the resident perspective, the folks that might be the most impacted by some of the corridors, how they feel about it. Perhaps they don't want it, or perhaps that they do, because from a safety perspective, it's going to be easier for them to connect to the bike path system here on Groseal, or get over to Elizabeth Park, or simply have a little more space in order to be able to get the mail as they go out towards Groseal Parkway. So Groseal Parkway is one option that we're looking at, and that could be anything from wide paved shoulders up to a bike path as we know it. We're also looking at Bellevue and connecting down Bellevue to Water's Edge, and then cutting through the Water's Edge complex over to Groseal Parkway and connecting to the bridge over there. The final option, which we don't think is going to be as feasible, would be utilizing a platted road called Douglas, which parallels Groseal Parkway to the north, and connecting into Groseal Parkway proper at Chicory and connecting to the bridge. So we'll have more information on that in the future. Right now, what our commission is doing is figuring out how to make sure that we reach the most residents as possible for this meeting, so that way we make sure we have their buy-in and very quickly within the process. I want to say that I did meet with Mayor Stack in the city of Trenton today, as well as Joanne Gagne with the Department of Recreation, and they are interested in the pathway connection or on the Trenton side. So we're going to be able to coordinate this as long as we can figure out all the funding mechanisms to put it in place. I know the city of Trenton is impacted by financial issues, so we're trying, just like us, that we're trying to minimize the impact for Groseal, we want to make sure that we minimize the impact for the city of Trenton too. So that's where all of our other potential players come in with Wayne County Recreation, Wayne County Roads, and Economic Development. We'll see how we can make this happen. So more information is to come. That's all I have to say about it, but I'm not sure if there's any other commissioners that want to add anything on at this moment.
I think you covered everything, Brian.
Any questions from the audience? Hearing none, we'll move on. Next item on the agenda is the Bicycle and Pedestrian Education Campaign. We're informally at this point calling Light the Night. Backstory is that Groseal was able to apply for a SEMCOG Planning Assistance Grant last year for a total of $7,000, and that will be used to purchase bike lights as well as bracelets for pedestrians. And we're looking to work with the police department in order to be able to find people that are out riding their bikes at night, or walking at night, or walking their dogs, or jogging, and let them know that, hey, you need to be safe out there, and you need to have a bike light in the front, preferably in the back. You need to be illuminated. Here's some, the police officer, whoever has the items, can give them a light to use as a temporary measure to get home, or until they can purchase a higher intensity light. And so we're hoping to do that along with some public education materials, show some videos and such as coming up with Bike Month and Bike to School Day. And so we're hoping to have much more information on that in the future. Fellow commissioners, or anything else that you'd like to mention about that?
When is, you said something about a biking month? What month is it?
That is May. So there's a lot going on in May. It's like a National Transportation Month. It's Bike Month. They have a specific Bike Week, which has Bike to School Day and Bike to Work Day. There's a Lucinda Means Advocacy Day that League of Michigan Bicyclists puts on. As well as, from a SEMCOG's perspective, we do Commuter Challenge, which is an event where we encourage people to try out different modes of transportation besides just driving alone. So it could be carpooling, it could be van pooling, it could be biking, walking, taking transit. So there's an actual contest to see people log their commutes, and people are putting in for a drawing to win fun prizes along with that. As well as within May, SEMCOG will be doing the second part of its blitz called Walk, Bike, Drive Safe. And so that's an intermodal bicycle, pedestrian, and driver education campaign in order to help people learn how to effectively share the road. So again, focusing on messages like illumination at night, and avoiding distractions while driving, using crosswalks when possible when you're walking, and again, trying to humanize, everyone that's out on the road, because they're our neighbors, they're our family, they're not bicyclists, pedestrians, drivers, or others, they're us. So those are some of the main messages with that. There will be billboards up around town. There will be, bus ads, like on the sides of buses. There will be videos that go online and social media. So we're kind of hoping that we can piggyback off of that and make this much more of a regional initiative as well as locally for us. I should mention that Mayor Stack was also interested in if in the future potentially partnering between Groseal and Trenton on making it a little bit more of a inter-community event. Next item on the agenda we have is Bike to School Day. So I'll turn it over to Nicole, and she'll say a few things and bring up one of our special guests.
So Bike to School Day is on May 8th, 2019, and Rebecca Kung did a lot of work on Walk to School Day in the fall. She's doing a great job planning and making sure things are going to happen for Bike to School Day, so I was hoping she could talk to us a little bit.
Hi all, I'm Rebecca Kung, and first thing I wanted to ask about this is the suggested design for yard-like posters, like the political type of ones that people put. What I wanted to do was make it work for the next 3 years. So this way we can print out 5 of them for $33 and white out what we're not using and use them, was my thought. We could buy twice as many and just have a walk and a bike separate, but didn't know if people had opinions about other things that should be on there. Do we want to have it more, have groseal, or we just want to be, I figured, be clear, be easy, legible, and leave it like that. This would be out where the drop-off, basically when parents drop off their kids at school, visible at that point, was my hope.
How large of a sign are you thinking it would
This
be?
is a 18 by 24. 5 of them, full color, is $33.
Those weather resistant? Is that on
Yeah, they're
corrugated?
the coroplasts, so they should last. They'll be up for, a month? And they should survive.
So I appreciate you trying to save on costs, and so you're putting 2 logos on there for the same sign. Assuming they're both on both sides of the sign, or is one on one?
That was my thought, because depending, at least at Park Lane, it would be where they can see both sides. Then when you pull in the Circle Drive, you would be seeing both sides. Actually, this is the prices for a single side, though.
Okay.
I didn't get a double-sided priced.
I was just asking. I think it makes sense because while they're clearly 2 separate events where one more focused on walking and the other one's focused on biking, I think in our community it's a lot easier for children to get to school by biking, and so I see a lot of people biking that on walk to school day.
I think it was also, at least in Meridian, it was announced as do either.
Yeah.
It wasn't really stressed as this is walk to school day. It was this is walk or bike to school day.
Yeah. So that's what I was saying. It is nice that you have both on there. We could just brand it as both. It's like, while it might be National Bike to School Day or Walk to School Day, our signs would say both of it, and it just have like one date associated with it, correct? So while we're looking at this image that shows the October and the May
Right,
on
the
there,
plan
are you
would
thinking
be-
that we would just have...
To white out, to put white paper over what is not the year that we are.
Uh-huh.
And so then next year we just take off what we need and put in the new date, which is the 6th in 2020, was my thought. So we don't have to do this again.
It is about simplicity too, and not just money, which was already donated, so it's okay.
What's that?
The $33 for the signs was already donated.
Oh, great.
There is a logo that's both walk and bike. I don't have it in any of my printouts, so that if you want to do both, we could do the combined walk-bike logo. But
Whichever you prefer.
the other thing, next one is the backpack flyer. Is that the is that the right logo for BPAC?
Yes.
Right. And then basically it's very similar to last year's, but this would be the backpack flyer to go out. My thought was perhaps after we get all the prizes and raffle and all that stuff in, we might add that in and put that out for the closer backpack flyer. But we could start this out pretty soon, sending that out every Friday. I think they come. And then this is something that I haven't talked to any higher ups out, so I don't know if it's even a possibility. But I thought it would be really neat to have announcements on the buses. If they could put a paper 8 by 10, whatever they are,
Half by 11.
half by 11, taped on the outside of the bus, because I don't think they want it in the window because of obscuring. a very clear, just straight date, and talk to the people you're waiting with at the bus stop. Came to me when I was waiting with my kids. I was thinking that's the time to start planning,
Talking
to
about
think
it.
about who you're with and who's in your neighborhood. So that I need to see if the buses would at all let us do that. But I thought that would be neat. It's
Yeah.
another way of announcing. So those were the thoughts for that. Where's my paper?
Brian, is it possible we could have those bike lights by the ride to school day?
We'd hope to have them. So
I was thinking if some of them don't have their lights or whatever, we could pass them out then. Or if they do have their lights and they have the bell, is there any way we could give them a swag thing?
So yeah, I like the idea. I know that Rebecca was just saying that you're looking at giveaways and such. So I'm not sure what you're planning to do as far as if
That
it's
was one of
something
my
that.
questions was, does BPAC want to do any kind of prizes? We thought, we've done a raffle in the past, and that seems to go well, and ice cream tickets. Starbucks was another idea. We did Five Below, $5 gift certificate for the little guys last year, or for Walk to School. There was, I think it was 2 years ago, we gave out glow sticks at the elementary schools for everybody who showed up, until they ran out, got a glow stick. But they go into the school with those, and then it's light. So I don't know how much of a hit. I mean, it's kind of cool to get a glow stick,
Right.
but having it inside doesn't really take advantage of it. So there's always we can add to the raffle, or we can, if it's something that we can hand out to everybody, that's also another option.
No, what I was thinking is if they came with their bike light, front and rear, they had their bell, if they had a helmet, you get a little swag type thing.
Got the education part of it too. Yeah.
Exactly.
We would need enough volunteers to keep up with that, because they do all come in a big, in one chunk.
Yeah. So
And so,
do you have extra capacity? Have you worked with PTA or PAT or?
PAT did provide some volunteers last year. The for walk to school, they were at Park Lane. I was at Meridian, and they weren't there until midday, and then they did the raffle. So there wasn't. There's no one there in the morning. So it's
We
hard
need to find
know.
a few more people to potentially help out.
I was thinking, you talking about possible prize or a swag bag. We remember last year, they got like 100 bikes. Why don't we put the bag on the head of every bike? This thing and lights on every bike.
Especially Meridian, that would work well. With Park Lane, I remember parents driving behind their kid biking, and then they put the bike in the car because the kids go home on whatever they normally go home on. So that might not work as well with the younger elementary. But we could always just have, yeah.
Would Meridian kids take each other's bags? They would just let them be, wouldn't they? I think it would be
No,
okay.
I don't know how to read that.
Oh, good point. You're right.
Good deal.
The one thing I do want to mention is that we do have this grant, and the funding would be going for a set number of bike lights and bracelets. And the idea was that we'd have enough bracelets to give every child on Groseal a bracelet, but we can't do that multiple times. So we want to try and figure out when's the best time for the greatest impact. Is it bike to school day? The days are much longer. I don't know how many people will be biking out later. Is it better to target it to people that really need them at night during the summer, and then do a little bit more of a push in October? When you have walk to school day, and the nights are getting longer and it's happening sooner, and there's more pedestrian crashes happening, within the state, within the region, and nationally. I just want to make sure that we focus our efforts, because there's a lot of different events that would it'd be great to have them at. This being one of them. Another one being potential open houses at the police department, Island Fest, the different parades associated with those, the glow rolls. We only have so many to go so far. So let's think a little bit more about that. But I'm definitely open to it if it makes sense, and we agree about it as a commission to center it on Bike to School Day.
Another question I had was if anyone had suggestions about starting lead groups. I think last time we briefly mentioned at Park Lane, perhaps just starting at Sacred Heart and looping around the neighborhood. Another idea I had was starting at the St. Thomas Lutheran Church and crossing there at Anderson, which I need to talk to the church and all that about, but I didn't know if anyone else here had any thoughts about big bike groups for parents who do drive their kids anyway, to just park and let them out to bike the rest of the way.
I think those are good options. I know in the past, the formal ones that we led, some of them were more successful than others. I know Jane tried to lead one. I tried to lead one. Rebecca, I'm not sure if you led one in the past.
Had one, but it was part of a running club, so I had a lot of people come.
Okay. I'm definitely open to it. I think we should figure out where there are some, and hey, if we have enough people to staff it, even if it's only 1 or 2 kids, it's worth an effort to do it, as long as we have volunteers that are interested in helping out.
And then if anyone had any other suggestions for stores that might be interested in donating raffle prizes. But yes, got custard corner.
Oh, and not raffle prizes, but as far as like bananas and flavored waters and so forth for the middle school kids, Kroger's donated generously in the past.
And then figured we'd post this on Gross Yield Now, and it might also be interesting to ask parents if they did want to join but weren't able, or did want their kids to be involved but were unable to do it, what would help them to have that be a possibility. For the Walk to School Day, what I mostly heard was they need to drive their kids, or their kids need to get the bus, and they get their bus pretty early so they can get to work on time. They don't have time to supervise walking and still get to work on time.
You're asking, you would be asking within that backpack flyer for people to ask like how, or answer how.
Yeah, I
we
didn't
can
know
help them.
where to ask. I guess I could put in the backpack flyer. I was thinking the easiest would be to just post it on Gross Yield Now and see who responds, but.
It'd be nice to do an article in the papers as well. I mean, I know that Gross Yield Now is very effective, but there's some people that aren't on there, so it might be another way to get the information out there, especially since Gross Yield Now is more like, well, now it's like it's instantaneously as far as it might be the issue for 5 minutes or I don't know, a day or two, and then unless we repost something, then it's going to go farther down. So I'm definitely for Gross Yield Now, but if there's other ways we can get it out, like the backpack flyer, like potentially doing something in the Gross Yield Grand or other newspapers, just the flyers around town, I think that's going to help as well.
And I think it depends on what do we want to do with that survey. If it's going to be kind of informal and tossing around ideas of how those parents with difficulties can get their kids, then something like a Facebook post here and there might be better than putting in a newspaper where it feels more permanent. In the newspaper, you're looking for answers, Mm-hmm. So it depends on what we're looking for. If we want some sort of data, or we want people to mail in answers, then there's a different way to approach it too.
Okay. So the signs are taken care of. We had a donation for that. You were looking for stores to help raffle off prizes. What else would you like help from the commission on this?
That was,
I volunteered to email the principals and superintendents sometime in the next few days because they should get it ideally before spring break, so they have time to think about it, and after spring break things can start rolling. Spring break is April 1st through 5th, and after that ends we've got 4 weeks. So what else was I going to say? We got that. Volunteers. If we have a person who wants to lead the effort at Park Lane, for example, because you bike, right? So one point person so that any other volunteers who come, they know who to look to. I know that if I don't know what I'm doing and I show up to volunteer somewhere, I want someone to tell me where to go, right? Mm-hmm. So we need a strong point person at each school. My friend Stacy is all about doing Meridian, so that's cool. We've got at least one.
I'll look around. I think that's something that should be kind of invited, because then you got the, reminded me of another question. I was thinking for the middle school and high school typically haven't been very involved, especially middle school, because there's no safe way to get there. But it seemed to me like an awesome opportunity if the student board, whatever they call their student governing committees, if they would be interested in doing something, that would be, we could say, this is coming up. Do you want to do anything for this? And we can help you if you want to be involved in that. But I don't know what they're called or who to contact or that. I've never been in middle school or high school.
I know that there's a club called Builders Club that's supposed to do some volunteer efforts.
Sarah, who is the young lady on the open space from the high school? What's her thing with the school? Lindsay or something? Linder? Maybe we get some high school students involved as volunteers in the morning to greet the kids at the different schools.
What about Rotary Club or Kiwanis? I'm not sure if there's anybody that'd be interested in helping out from there. Just put out the call.
They would be in school because they start earlier. So high schoolers would be in school while Park Laners are arriving. So that might make it difficult.
What we would be asking Rotary and Kiwanis for example, would be maybe volunteers or donations.
Yeah, volunteers to help out. BIs, handing out the prizes, or leading one of the group rides, or potentially offering any sort of raffle.
Rebecca, I do have a question for you. Have you considered traffic control in any of the intersections? I can liaison for you to the police reserve unit and see if they can assist.
Yep, and we
especially
did
with
have with Walk to School Day. They had quite a few, and I think PAT is the one who who talked to them about it. But I think every time they do have quite a good. They had a crossing officer at Parkway and Meridian, I noticed, and I think they do one at Church for Park Lane. And if we were to do the meet at the Lutheran Church, then we would want one crossing Meridian there at I've lost Anderson.
I believe we also posted one at Park Lane and Church in the past for anybody coming out of the north sub there.
And it seems to me Park Lane always scares me because of the parents dropping off kids are usually the most dangerous traffic I hit, and so it seems like it'd be nice to have just one at the school for all the bikers. But
A little bit out there, but let's just say that we got a lot of middle schoolers that were interested in potentially riding. Wouldn't it be nice to do a temporary shutdown of one lane of East River?
It would be awesome to do a temporary shut. I've always just envisioned that. It would be so neat. The problem is When you're biking at traffic time for the schools, there's so much coming out of the side streets too, that would need to, no, just on East, if you're biking down East River at school starting time, it's hard to even cross those little side streets, Ferry and Island. I mean,
Island, Stout.
There's just it's amazing how much traffic there was. I was waiting, I had a flat tire, so I was walking back at the wrong time one day. And I just had to stop and wait for a while to be able to get across the side street. But usually I avoid that during school time. It's just not safe to be biking on East River at that time. But that would be nice. And we have some time. I don't know what kind of things are involved in that. I've never.
Yeah, it would be a first for us over here too, but I'd like to potentially think about that for a future event. Maybe doing like an open street where, again, for just a couple hours or a half day or something like that, you close it down and you have some sort of like celebration. Let people be riding around and have some activities around
They
there.
do that every weekend in Boston. I mean, there's lots of places do that. Would that be Wayne County? Close a road.
I would
Who's
think that we
involved?
would need to talk with the police commission over here. That would be like the major one. Probably need to talk to Wayne County, but I think that they'd be less concerned about it potentially. I mean, we have the rock event, CF rock event that's happening, and we closed roads down for short periods of time. So I think the biggest thing would be asking homeowners how they feel about it, since it is a residential road in that aspect. They need to get to their house, and how would we do that? But there's a way to do it. But I'm not sure if it'd be ready for bike to school day.
Maybe, like if we close the road, we can use the road that are closer to the river. Because they can turn from the driveway, there's going to be traffic, but close outside road for bikes and pedestrians.
That is a new topic. So we're going to keep that on the on the eye on the prize for the future. But I think we got enough to do at the moment. So sorry I brought it up, but
That would be-
not sorry I brought it up.
I would love that.
Thank you so much for that update, and thank you for helping out. Next item on the agenda is our bicycling skills course. So many of us here on the commission have been working on a way to try and create an event that helps specialize in teaching children, teenagers, and adults of all ages how to comfortably ride in many different environments, not just on the paths. So, working with this commission here, working with the League of Michigan Bicyclists and Grozio Recreation Department, we have created something called the Bicycling Skills Club or course, and it will be in the Downriver profile. I mean, not Downriver profile, the Grozio profile, our recreation guide. So that should be coming out shortly if it's not already out. But this is an event that will be 3 separate days over 3 separate weeks, beginning in May. It's the Thursdays. I believe it's May 8th. Let's see here.
May 8th is a Wednesday.
I'm sorry. May 9th, 16th, and the 23rd. And so this will be at the Public Safety Building, and it's open to all Grozio residents and potentially others, which I'll get to in a minute. And there is a cost for the course. It's very modest, though. I'm forgetting the number that we settled on off the top of the head. But basically, it's just a little bit to help provide some of the materials that we'll need for the course, and then potentially help institutionalize it in the future. But it will be led by a certified instructor, Steve Hannon, who is a member and board member of the League of Michigan Bicyclists. And he is certified through the League of American Bicyclists on road bicycling. So he's been able to teach this course in multiple states. He does it in the city of Detroit through MOGO. He's done it in Grand Rapids. But I worked with him to create this course, which will, again, it'll be centered around people that have already mastered the basic skills of bicycling. You know how to ride without training wheels. You know how to stop. You've got the basic skills down. You've been riding around in your neighborhood, but now you're ready to venture out a little bit farther. And the bike paths are great, but there's not bike paths everywhere. So how do you start from your house and get to water's edge? Or how do you get to some of the open space up near the northern end of the island? Or what do you do at some of the more busy intersections, or when you have to cross the street? Some kids are already there, they know it, but other ones maybe on the fence, they're super excited to get out there, but their parents are a little bit cautious, I would say. So we're hoping that this course over the 3 days, which will include both classroom and in the field exercises, will give both the children and adults the confidence in order to ride anywhere on the island and be safe about it. So it'll include information like emergency stopping, you're riding and transitioning from the path to the road. How do you avoid objects within the road? So if there's a road hazard, and there's a variety of other things that will be a part of it. But so I wanted to say, look forward to that in our profile magazine. And when I did have my meeting with Mayor Stack today, she asked, if it would be open to other people off island. Personally, I think that's great. We have the League of Michigan Bicyclists, Steve Hannon, donating his time free for this course. It's pretty cheap. There's not a lot, heavy costs involved with this. So my opinion is, if there's people that are interested and willing to pay the small fee, yes, let's make this as big as possible, because maybe, again, we can institutionalize it, and maybe we can offer it multiple times per year. Or maybe we can do a joint effort, with other cities, and, it moves around a little bit. So you get to different environments in the future. But I wanted to bring it to this commission and see how they felt about opening it up to people off island, and if the city of Trenton or others want to advertise it.
How many people can the venue that we're holding at hold?
That would be a question for Alan.
How many people can the public safety hold?
Public safety building. How many do you think?
Well,
it can fit?
comfortably, I think we can probably seat 60 people in there.
People register first then, so.
Absolutely, in there.
I'm not sure how many people we will get. We'll see how that goes. In the past, we haven't had many people. We've never signed up in advance for things. It's always been more just do some information on Facebook or on the internet, and then in several posters around town. And we've had some success, but I would say it's been more on the small scale side as far as people wanting to be a part of this. So this is sort of going to be trial and error. I would think that we don't want to have 60 people out there. If so, we're going to need to find a lot more volunteers to help out with it. But I would think at least comfortably maybe like around 20 people.
Is there already a registration date in recreation? What's the registration date?
It should be open now, but if it's up there, we're going through the recreation department for the registration, so I can coordinate with Kim on that.
I was asking because I just, I feel like since it's a gross deal thing, maybe as long as we've got head start on the registration, right? So we've got at least a week head start out, then I'm totally in favor of inviting other people.
Okay.
Because it's not like our residents are being excluded because other people registered.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason that our
I agree.
Okay. So maybe a week after it hits the streets for us.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, just
think
because
that's a good
I don't want our
compromise.
own neighborhood to be excluded.
Do you want to announce it with backpack flyers too, because it's parents of that age kids then?
Yes. And I have information that I can, if I'm not sure if you'd want to target it around the same time as Bike to School Day, or if it should be in a different backpack flyer. But if you're comfortable, I could give you the information that was included, and you could potentially do that for us. Okay.
Brian, also, we haven't discussed what time of the day that will be.
We did.
30th.
I'll double check. I believe it might be 5:30. 5:30 to 7. But I'll double check on that.
We've held the room from 5 to 7:30. So
Okay. I coordinated with you on it, but I forgot the exact times. So yeah, I'm remembering now too, because the thought was that we do classroom first, and so afterwards, we'll go out for an actual ride, and maybe you don't need the classroom, for the entire time. So definitely by 7 o'clock, we wouldn't need the public safety building anymore. All right. Any other questions or comments, discussion points on the bicycling skills course? Hearing none, we will move on to the chair's report. So I have 2 items to briefly talk with you about. The first is our annual report. So I will pass that out to you guys. You should have received this via email. We do this report every year. We submit it to the township. So I apologize that I did not give this to you ahead of time. It was a quick turnaround, so I just went with what I knew. So every year we have objectives, and so we state whether those objectives were met. So I'm not going to go into the details, but overall, we do have some successes. We have many, several partial achieved successes as well, and some things that are still underway or need to be started. What I will focus in on is the 2019-2020 objectives, which is on the back. So this is where we definitely have more creativity to move forward. We're not confined to just these objectives, but it'd be good to keep these in mind as we're moving throughout the year. And then if we add some other items on, make sure we record those so that way I can put it in the next year's annual report. So what I have down here is implement the education campaign, hold the bicycling skills course, participate at Bike to School Day and Walk to School Day, conduct pathway maintenance, hold resident outreach meetings associated with a parkway connector, apply for connector funding if applicable, and look for more ways for BPAC to work with other departments such as recreation, open space, DPS, and public safety. Is there anything that anyone would like to add to this list or comment on?
I think it's a really robust list because these are some projects that take a lot of effort and a lot of coordination. So I'm really excited.
Thank you, Nicole. Hearing none, we'll be always open to more discussion about this, especially offline. I just don't want to. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. The last item I want to talk about, and it'll be very quick, is just to mention that we do have a brochure that our wonderful communications person, Jane Fiegel, has helped create in partnership with several of us on the commission in the past. So these are just proofs, or not proofs, but just printouts that I did. What we usually send this to the printer, and it's a trifold. So if you take this and fold it in half over here, it's generally larger in size. But it's basically talks about the island, and more so than just the BPAC events, but trying to promote the island, and so I'll probably put this up on the screen so other people can see it. Yeah, thank you. So we looked at it as a marketing tool. So it's, Groseal, your island oasis for biking and walking. And so it talked about our open space, it talked about our paths, our wonderful business district, the Gibraltar Bay unit, historical homes, all the soft paths and such. And we made copies of this. We put it in the Michigan Welcome Centers in Detroit and down in southern Monroe County, as well as we gave it to realtors on the island, so they could use that as a tool for prospective homeowners. So I just wanted to let everyone know that this is available, and that if it makes sense, we can potentially reprint this in the future, especially if we can find a sponsor for it. So that way it minimizes our cost for doing it, because while it is a BPAC thing, we've tried to make it more of a whole island thing, and include the other departments and organizations as part of it. So we're hoping that we can build off that and make it more of a holistic version. Early versions of this brochure did include a lot more about the island, and then when we learned that it was going to come directly out of our budget, and no one else was going to be able to contribute, then we pared it back just a little bit. So this is something that's out there. If you're interested in moving this forward, we can do that, but just know it is a resource available. Oh, I forgot to mention is part of it is a map of all the paths. So I can put this up on the screen as well. So the trifold, when you open it up, it included the map of our paths, as well as the locations of many sites of interests on the island. So I know that my colleague Dan over here asked for this map and the brochure to be able to show to our open space committee, so that we can show the relationship between the different paths and such. Again, we're hoping that we'll be able to publicize this more as we create trailheads and such, and do other marketing things to show all the amenities that we have here on the island, and show its relationship to the Downriver Link Greenways once we get that Groseal Parkway connector on.
Brian, what Open Space hopes to do with this map, they have a map of their own of the island of different open spaces. They're going to take the red highlighted diagrams of where we show a bike path, pedestrian walkway, and they're going to highlight that along with their open space.
Mm-hmm. So just to let you know, currently on here we do have the open space trails. Yep. So we just had it as a thinner line that's dashed, that's red. So we do have the one in the Manchester Woods across from Meridian Elementary. We have the one that goes from Groseal Parkway south to Stout, as well as the one up in the bird sanctuary along Horse Mill Road, and the one behind the post office. So we're happy to coordinate. Maybe, hopefully, we can figure out a way that we have one map as opposed to.
That's what they want to do.
On the map, it shows a bathroom at the Macomb Commons. Where is that?
Police Department, Public Safety Building.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
It is worth mentioning, too, that one of our future plans is to try to put in a bike repair station. And we've talked about a location, but hopefully in the future we will have that also on this. So if you have any biking issues while riding over here, you can stop and make small repairs on your bike. That's in the works also.
I have two other things to report on. I apologize, but I just thought about these. I've been reporting as chair from Groseal items. I do, as my day job, work at SEMCOG, Southeast Michigan Council of Governments, and we've been moving ahead with several things related to bicycle and pedestrian travel, including an update of our regional bicycle and pedestrian plan. Dan has volunteered to be a part of the bicycle and pedestrian task force to learn what's going on, represent Groseal. Joanne Gagne from the city of Trenton has also volunteered on that. But another two items that I think that we should be aware of One is something that's associated with an app that SEMCOG created called Park Finder. So you can download that from the App Store on an Apple device or through the Google Play Store as well. And it gives you the locations of all parks in Southeast Michigan and what amenities are available. It's included where the off-road trails are within the region. And most recently, through a partnership, we utilized something called Trail Explorer. We created something called Trail Explorer, which is essentially a Google Street View for both land trails and water trails. So Groseal is already represented in Trail Explorer, especially on the water side. So all around our island and the Thoroughfare Canal, you can go to our website or through the app, be able to get a view of what it's like to be kayaking or boating, as well as parts of the Downriver Link greenways are already included in that. And this summer, SEMCOG is going to be going and doing the new Jefferson pathway up through Elizabeth Park, as well as they will be coming on to Groseal. So our main bike path will be a part of that in the future as well.
Is that app called Trail Explorer?
Yes. The other item is that we have a bicycle and pedestrian count program where we're doing short duration counts across Southeast Michigan. So if we do have some locations that we're looking to try and quantify the number of people walking or biking, we can put that into the organization, and if it makes sense, they might be able to do that free of charge. That's all I have to report on as chair. So is there any other comments, questions, things anybody wants to report on before I make a motion for adjournment? I lost my agenda over here through all my paperwork. All right. So with that,
I make
Okay.
a motion to adjourn.
I second the motion.
Dan and Nicole, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Jane, you oppose? I think she's a little late. With that, the meeting is ended at 9:07 p.m. I thank everyone for their time. Walk, bike, drive safe.